Life is always changing and moving. Sarah Mellet was born on a plantation in Virginia to Quaker parents. Because of their distaste for slavery, they sold and moved to Indiana. Here she grew up on a farm, running fast, climbing trees, playing the piano, and turning into a beautiful young woman. She was wooed by Isaac Julian Harvey, a young peripatetic farmer who lived nearby. They were married at 17 and given 200 acres, cleared up and ready for farming as a marriage gift. Isaac wasn't crazy about farming. It was too quiet. I had nothing to do, only hunt deer, turkey, and prairie chickens. We had plenty of everything to eat as I planted potatoes, cabbage, and had order turnips sowed, and everything grew. Nothing to do was not Isaac's ideal state of being. Isaac sold the farm, and he and Sarah, saying goodbye, moved west to Missouri, where Isaac, at 24 years old, invested his money in prairie and timberland, flat-bottom boats, and served as a counsel and judge. 2 of their 6 children died of fever. In 1850, just 1 year after the discovery of gold, Isaac joined the Great Migration. He sold his lands and holdings in Missouri, moved Sarah and children back to Indiana with her family, and saying goodbye, rode out on horseback following the Oregon Trail. He stayed 1 winter in Portland working in a general store which provided supplies to miners. Spring came and Isaac was a good walker, so covering 10 to 15 miles a day, he walked to California. Isaac could see his potential gold mine in the needs for supplies, especially dairy products, so he intended to capitalize. He returned to his family, traveling from San Francisco, walking across the Isthmus of Nicaragua, and then by ship to New York, and then Newcastle, Indiana by train. He arrived home with a brown silk dress for Sarah, a case of smallpox, and a desire to get on the road again. Once more he sold the house and businesses, bought 7 ox-drawn carts, cattle, took Sarah and his children, and set off with $500 worth of gold. Sarah brought a leather trunk containing the brown silk dress, rugs, and slips of roses from her Indiana home. The trip took only 5 months, and they settled initially in Marysville, California. Marysville had become the 3rd largest city in California and the largest packing center in the West, loading 1,000 mules a day. Men poured into California through the river ports of Marysville to get the gold out of the hills. All these men needed supplies, tons of supplies, barrels of liquor, boxes of soap, and boots. Isaac bought half interest in the Western Hotel and Theater, opened a bank and a store, and constructed a toll road from Quincy to Spanish Ranch, a small mining community. He estimated his wealth at $210,000 at this point. During the springs and summers, the family lived at Spanish Ranch. Here Isaac owned the Spanish Ranch Hotel and store and invested in mines. Isaac spent a winter there in 1861 with his son Willie, with the idea of Sarah and his daughters joining him in the summer. But Sarah was alone too often, and while the toll road was still frozen, joined him traveling by sleigh. Soon, all Isaac's businesses failed. Spanish Ranch was sold, and the family moved to Susanville. Isaac became the first judge in Lassen County, like Wyatt Earp, trying to stop the lawlessness and constant gun battles in the saloons, streets, and courtrooms. However, the Sagebrush War, a little-known California-Nevada border dispute, caught them in the crossfire. They then headed for the warmer agricultural valleys. In Healdsburg, Isaac bought and sold a hotel, staying 3 months. Moving to Suisun, buying another hotel and staying for 9 months, where they moved to Salinas City, which contained 12 buildings and fields of wild mustard. Immediately they started organizing the town, building streets and sidewalks, churches and schools. Plus, they constructed a real house made out of redwood, cut and milled in Santa Cruz. Sarah had her first family house as a married woman. It was in the back of their mercantile store, but she could buy a piano and plant a garden filled with her rose slips, amaryllis, lilacs, lemon verbena, as many types of lush flowers as she could find. Flowers were on the dinner table every night. 4 out of Sarah and Isaac's 14 children were still alive, and the house saw its first wedding when daughter Sophronia married. As the city grew, the house was moved around the corner in 1879. Then, once more, Isaac sold his store, resigned as the first mayor, and with his son Benton, traveled to a promising gold mine in Nevada, saying goodbye to Sarah. Sarah and her daughter Mabel stayed put in Salinas, never traveling much farther than Santa Rosa again. The mine failed, and Isaac and son moved to San Francisco to become stockbrokers. At the end of the 19th century, Isaac returned to the house and Sarah in Salinas, driving in his buggy and wearing out all over evenly as far as he could tell. Mabel and her husband moved into the house with Sarah in 1899. The house was moved once more out of the busy city center in 1939. It was moved again this August next to the Steinbeck Center to be run as a museum for California pioneers and their families. The brown silk dress is worn on family occasions to remember Sarah in her moves and changes. She stayed with her family, being the center of their hearts. The family lives on. The roses grow in my yard.